Okay, let's dive right into this. Have you ever wondered why so many people start investing with these amazing intentions only to completely throw in the towel just a few years later? The material we're unpacking in today's explainer reveals a pretty fascinating and honestly kind of tragic psychological trap. See, we've basically been conditioned since we were teenagers to fixate on this one single mythical number, 1 million euros. We think, once I hit a million, my whole life changes. But both mathematically and psychologically, chasing that million right out of the gate is exactly why 63% of people fail. They quit literally moments before their grueling effort actually turns into visible results. So today, we're going to break down why true financial transformation actually happens much earlier, across 3 highly specific milestones. So here's our roadmap for this explainer. 1. The wealth staircase. 2. The first 10,000 euros. 3. Beyond 100,000 euros. 4. $500,000 in freedom. And finally, 5. The secret of enough. Let's get to it.
63%. Just let that sink in. That is the staggering percentage of people who abandon their investment plans, like, say, a dollar-cost averaging strategy. And the crazy part? They almost always quit at the exact same point. They give up just a fraction of a second before the engine truly starts to run. Why? Well, because they're exhausted, and they're staring at the entirely wrong finish line.
And the root of all that exhaustion really comes down to a dangerous myth. It's this idea that wealth grows in a predictable straight line. We imagine putting our money away and just watching our net worth go up in this smooth diagonal ramp that perfectly matches our effort. But the source material makes it abundantly clear that is absolutely not how it works. Wealth is actually a staircase, and not a normal one either. Every single step is exponentially steeper than the last. The sheer effort that gets you to the first step is completely different from the strategy that's going to get you to the third. But hold on, before we actually take that first step, we have to establish a foundational rule. When you're trying to figure out which step you're currently on, you cannot look at your gross assets. You absolutely must measure your liquid net worth. Think about it. If you have 30,000 euros invested in a 200,000 euro house, sure, your net worth on paper is 230,000, but you can't buy your weekly groceries with the bricks from your living room wall, and you definitely can't pay a sudden medical bill with your roof, unless, of course, you sell the whole thing and go rent somewhere else. So your house counts for 0 in this climb. Plus, you've got to base your lifestyle on this liquid wealth, not your current salary. Salaries are super fickle. Industries change. AI might disrupt your entire field tomorrow. I mean, just think of all those highly paid athletes who end up bankrupt simply because they spent based on their temporary income instead of their actual liquid assets.
All right, Section 1, the wealth staircase, establishing the rules.
Moving right along to Section 2, the first 10,000 euros, the hardest step. Look, this first step is without a doubt the most psychologically grueling part of the entire journey. You might hear 10,000 euros and think, well, that doesn't change anyone's life. And hey, if you're only looking at purchasing power, you'd be right. But hitting this first milestone isn't about getting rich. It is the ultimate, undeniable proof that you possess the discipline to retain money. It proves you can stop cash from leaking out of your pockets like water from a leaky bucket. And trust me, that is the single hardest skill to learn. Because during this phase, you are going to face what the source material calls the flat line of wealth. Let's say you're investing 200 euros a month. After about 4 years of strict sacrifice, boom, you hit 10,000 euros. But then you look closely at your account and realize, wait, I put in 9,000 euros of my own hard-earned cash, and the market only gave me 1,000 back in return. This right here is exactly where that 63% quit. They throw their hands up and say, all this sacrifice for $1,000? I should have just spent it. But this is the absolutely crucial moment where you must not throw in the towel. The engine just hasn't fully turned on yet.
The true value of this first step, it's entirely psychological. Most people walk around in this state of constant, dull tension, right? They're always just one broken boiler or unexpected car repair away from a total financial crisis. Having 10,000 euros completely liquid kills that background anxiety dead. It covers like 99% of life's everyday emergencies. It gives you the priceless, concrete proof that your financial ship isn't going to sink at the very first storm. You've officially broken through the mental wall.
Which brings us to Section 3, beyond 100,000 euros. The machine takes over.
So this is the second major step. This is where your painful human effort is finally replaced by the raw power of the financial machine. Up until 100,000 euros, you are the one literally pushing the car. It's your discipline, your monthly deposits, your gritted teeth doing all the heavy lifting. But at 100K, everything flips. If we assume a conservative 4% real return after inflation, this capital generates roughly €4,000 a year. That's €4,000 that arrives completely passively without you working a single hour of overtime or having to hustle for a new client. The machine is now pushing itself.
And when you really look at the mathematical magic of compound interest at work, it's mind-blowing. If you're consistently investing, maybe bumping up your deposits as your career grows, the timeline just radically shrinks. It might take you 14 long years to reach that first €100,000. But the jump from 100K to 200K, that only takes 8 years. The next takes 7. The final stretch to $500,000 takes just 4 years. The beginning is disproportionately slow, which is why people give up. But the end is incredibly rapid, because your existing money is finally working for you 24/7. This is exactly why the money you invest in your first 10 years will mathematically outweigh everything you invest in the next 30 years combined.
To really hammer home how powerful time and patience are over pure intellect, the source shares this incredible real-life contrast. On one side, you have a man who worked as a gas station attendant and a janitor. He died at 92 with over $8 million in liquid wealth. No lottery, no rich uncle, just decades of patient saving. On the other side, a brilliant, highly paid, Harvard-educated Wall Street executive who ended up totally bankrupt during the exact same economic period. The differentiator wasn't their salary or their IQ. It was simply the ability to stay in the game and let the math work.
Now, for investors in Italy, the source actually highlights a highly actionable, entirely legal tip to accelerate this early phase without having to earn a single euro more. By using supplementary pension funds like a fondo pensione or a PIP, you can deduct over €5,000 a year directly from your taxable income. It basically acts like a massive discount funded straight by the state, lowering your taxes and boosting your effective investment. Honestly, leaving this on the table is one of the most expensive mistakes you can possibly make in the early climb.
All right, Section 4, $500,000 and freedom.
This third milestone completely redefines what money even represents. When you hit €500,000, there's actually a bit of an uncomfortable truth waiting for you. There are no new magical secrets unlocked at this stage. None. It is simply the natural mathematical result of unrelenting consistency. It's the result of refusing to inflate your lifestyle every single time you got a raise or a holiday bonus. You transition from accumulating things that cost you money, like expensive cars that just depreciate, to accumulating assets that actually pay you.
Because what this number actually buys you is just remarkable. At a 4% real return, €500,000 generates €20,000 a year. In a lot of places, that's a full replacement salary that literally arrives while you sleep. This is the threshold of true freedom. It means you can finally quit that toxic job for one that pays less but makes you infinitely happier. You could take a gap year without derailing your entire future. $500,000 isn't just some vanity wealth milestone. It is the milestone of having total, absolute options over your own life.
And finally, Section 5, the secret of enough.
This brings us to the ultimate psychological lesson of this entire explainer, the actual endgame of wealth. Listen. If you spend any time on social media, you probably think everyone out there is becoming a millionaire by age 30. But the data shows the actual average age of people who build significant wealth is 62. So if you're grinding away right now in your 30s, 40s, or even 50s, take a deep breath. You are not behind schedule. The real secret is just surviving the market panics, avoiding bad debt, and staying on the staircase. Perhaps the hardest financial skill of all is just knowing when to stop. The source shares this profound little anecdote about a writer attending this lavish party hosted by a billionaire. The writer turns to his friend and says, "I have something our host will never have." The friend looks confused and asks what, and the writer replies, "Enough. The absolute greatest risk on this staircase isn't failing to climb it, it's climbing your whole entire life, constantly moving the goalposts, and never once realizing you've already won."
We really have to ground all this mathematics with a philosophical truth. Money is exactly like salt. It powerfully enhances the flavor of life, absolutely, but it cannot create flavor out of thin air. If you don't have a life well lived underneath it, time with your family, work you actually care about, the ability to control your own mornings, no amount of money on a screen is ever gonna fill that void.
Which leaves us with one final, pretty vital question as we wrap up this explainer. What step are you on right now? Are you fighting through the grueling flatline of the first €10,000? Are you finally feeling that momentum of 100,000? Wherever you are, just remember, it's a staircase, not a straight line. If you found this breakdown helpful, share it with someone who is currently trapped by the myth of overnight wealth. And whatever you do, keep climbing. Catch you next time.